A lot of people think about traveling as a romantic way to live, but today I thought we'd talk about what it really means to have romance on the road. It really isn't what you think. It's very different about how old you are. So I wanted to just briefly cover that subject. I know, when have I been brief? I'm going to try. But before we do that, we're going to take a deep breath, hold for 4, exhale, and see you on the other side. So this is something I think a lot of people think about. I know I get some emails around it and some comments, and I really haven't talked a lot about it. If you watch the Nomad retirement series, you'll hear me talk about social systems and aging and family, because those are all important. But I've actually had 2 experiences with living on the road, so to speak. The first one was when I was in my early 20s, when I was backpacking through Europe. Very different way of being when you're very young. This time, I'm obviously not in my early 20s, and it's become a full-time life. So the real big differentiation is part-time temporary travel versus full-time living. So I'm going to really talk about the full-time living part of it, because if you're going to go home, it's a totally different ballgame. When this is the way you live forever, basically, it's a whole different conversation. And there's 2 things I really wanted to talk about. I've been thinking a lot about how to address this subject, and there's a lot. This is way more than one little tiny video. I mean, obviously, people have spent lifetimes and whatever trying to figure out the secrets of romance. But there's really 2 things I wanted to just say that are super hardcore bottom line things to consider. And the first one is, how much are you willing to compromise? Because every relationship requires compromise. This type of lifestyle is not well suited to a lot of people. So that really you just have 2 choices. Is it somebody that's going to travel with you, or are you going to stop traveling? And that's just sort of the reality around it. So that's sort of the first big one. The other really big one that I have come up to heads with, whether it's romantic or friendships or anything, or working relationships, is why should I invest in you if you're just going to leave? And I have to say that's a very legitimate question, in the same way that how much do I want to invest in you if I know I'm going to leave? And so I think the bigger question behind that is, how important is living in a wandering kind of non-permanent lifestyle to you? Is it the lifestyle that you want to live at any cost, or is it temporary and a way to get you from one place to the next? And there's just a lot of people who have kind of that I don't want to be in one place forever thing in them. It's been since the beginning of time. And I think one of the most famous romantic examples is out of Africa. He couldn't stay put. She wanted him to. And 2 people who have very different needs, is that something they can compromise and make work? So those are if I had to boil everything down, those are the 2 things that I would boil it down to, besides all the personal stuff. So there's a couple other things that have come up that have been really interesting that were completely unanticipated. So when I did my first backpacking, right, everybody's about the same age and everybody's just traveling, and it's non-temporary, and you're just sort of on an adventure, and it's one version. This version has so many different kinds of people in it, and I think that's where YouTube and these videos are really a misunderstanding about what the bulk of people who live like this are really doing. And it's everything from people who are just working full-time, so this is their lifestyle because it's their job. A lot of people are doing Monday through Friday or several months at a time in a trailer and then going back home to their other life. This lifestyle attracts a lot of people, and I would put myself in this category now, is that we're a refugee from the system because we don't want to live in the system. Now that can look like a functional adult, and that can look like a non-functional version of adulthood. And there's a lot of physical illness, there's a lot of mental illness, there's a lot of addiction, there's a lot of stuff that just because you are living the same way as somebody, it might not be somebody that you would want to live with. And just from a very practical perspective, it isn't something that it's shifting. So with the videos, the perceptions of this type of life have radically shifted. But I still get a lot of people, like, what are you doing? And a lot of assumptions, about my laziness or my lack of willingness to do the right thing or get over it, or why don't you conform? Why won't you go back in the system? Obviously you're not stupid. You could get a job. You didn't have to live this way. And so there's a lot of judgment. There's a lot of confusion. And you see it more with people who are older, especially I think over 65, 70, who are very traditional and grew up very traditional, have a lot of trouble with this. And then you have a lot of people who are being exposed to this idea because of all the videos. And then there's a percentage who secretly wish they could do it, who can't for whatever reasons. So I think the hardest part has been for me is, one, I'm not looking for a romantic relationship, so that part is not open for discussion. But I think the hardest part that I see is that if you're looking for your tribe, the physical way we all live does make a statement. But within that subculture, there's still other subcultures about who you would best fit with. And I think there gets to be some confusion about, well, this is what your physical life looks like. Is that who you are on the inside? So that is probably an over-analytical explanation than you really thought you would be getting here on just little YouTube videos. But it's really true. And, romantic relationships are extremely difficult in the best of circumstances. When I was backpacking, I went alone. I know that's a huge surprise, right? But the people who were couples were desperate to grab on to anybody else because of they just could hardly stand each other, or they were bored. And, the flip side is if you're traveling with your tribe, which is, this is my tribe right here, is it's great if you all get along, because you're always taking your life with you. The inside of this trailer and this life, it never changes, which makes it really good on the inside. The hard part is the people and the life outside the trailer. And that becomes the question, do you want to invite somebody into your space, or are you willing to give the space up and enter into somebody else's life? And that's kind of the bottom line. I'm just going to say that, again, the two biggest issues are, why should anybody invest in you if you're temporary, if you know you're going to leave? And two, what are you willing to compromise on? And I just want to add one more thing. It's very different now that we have cell phones and internet. Remember, before we had those kinds of things, when I went to Europe, that we didn't have cell phones or internets and just mail. I didn't even call back home for 3 weeks. And I'm like, well, why would I want to call home? I know I'm fine. We just lived very differently. There wasn't this ease of connecting with people online to hook up and meet up, because you could only access who you could see face to face. So we live in a very different world than previously of any kind of nomadic experience. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm sure I'll talk more about this on another day, but I just was thinking about it, and I was thinking about what I would say. Those are my two big things. I'm going to leave you here. It's Friday. I hope you have a really good weekend, and that you'll join me again here at this YouTube channel by subscribing. If you want to support it, you can go over to jillelizabeth.net. But in the meantime, I would like to say that before we go, I hope you take a deep breath as we rise with the sun in our eyes, love in our heart, feet strongly on the ground as we walk together on Survival Road, one day at a time. Live free, die wild, my friend, and we'll see you next time.
You could aim for perfection.